Just like in investing, when you want to diversify your stock market portfolio to help buffet the risk of any one stock going down, you do the same at a city or a county level. And you want to do the same on a personal level. Congratulations, my acolytes of success, because you are watching the Success Channel. My name is Paul Victor Vazquez JD. So Paul Vazquez JD, I think, is how you'll find me on the YouTube. I am the president of Tax Lab Pro Business Solutions, co-owner in the Singularity Network, and inventor of the Hat Tack. But that's not exactly why I want to talk to you guys today, but there is a little tie-in. In this video, I want to give you some practical steps to help you avoid experiencing the economic downturns like we did in 2008 with the housing or economic bubble. The practical steps will come more towards the end. It'll be good to listen all the way through. Not that you guys do that. I have some of the best subscribers in all of YouTube, and that's you guys. You engage, you make comments, you tickle the like button, and you subscribe. Best folks on all of YouTube. That's you. So I'm very lucky that you guys spend just an inkling of time with me, and I hope that I can deliver the same and hopefully more value to you than you deliver to me just by being here. So thank you for tickling. All right. Well, on with it. This theory or this method is not totally unheard of, and this is something that we've learned as societally to practice in a macro level. Macro meaning large, bigger than small. Yeah. So if you look at, say, a town, a city, and there are some towns and cities which have sprung up around one industry. Their economic stability rests on the back of one industry, and when there is turmoil in that industry, the whole economy suffers. We saw this, that a lot of people were taking bets on the housing market. Now, we didn't have as big of a living standard collapse as they did back in the 1920s, or what was that, mid-1920s? I think it was early 1920s. But yeah, during that economic depression, we didn't experience such a large drop in the total standard of living. Of course, it probably wasn't as high as it is now anyways. Just get a little coffee here. There we go. Clear the throat. The way that we do that on a macro scale is to inspire or encourage other industries to sprout up. And this is one thing that we might be doing right now with the opportunity zones, is incentivizing other businesses to establish themselves in economically depressed areas. These economically depressed areas are often those areas which have had some increase or were once stable due to a specific industry being strong in that area. Once that industry suffered a loss, of course, economic stability dwindled, and those became more economically depressed areas than they have been in the past. So these opportunity zones are a way in which the U.S. government is trying to bolster up and help other industries get established. So you want multiple industries to have a foothold in an area for there to be economic stability. Just like in investing, when you want to diversify your stock market portfolio to help buffet the risk of any one stock going down, you do the same at a city or a county level. And you want to do the same on a personal level. Now, That's a lot harder said than done, maybe on that personal level. And it's hard on a state level. But these are things that you want to look at doing if you want to be able to buffet the downturns that happen in any year and in any market. It might be a strong year for the general economy, but a down year for you. And so what you want to do is start thinking about how to establish yourself in multiple areas. And something that I've heard previously, I can't remember where, but I think it was on a podcast. I'm sorry I can't give the right people credit, but they encourage people to have a profession and an advocation. And I would also encourage that you have a hobby as well. An occupation is something you try to be a professional at, the main source of your revenue. For me, an example is I started off in law, then transferred over to accounting, bookkeeping, and that area. So that might be my current vocation, right, or employment. And an advocation might be another side income, and this is a side hustle or side income that not many of you or not many YouTubers are talking about, but that some of you may have the ability to do. And that is being a interpreter in professional settings. It is a advocation side gig because, number one, you experience a great work environment normally because you're dealing in professional settings, doctors' offices, courtrooms, these professional settings. And number two is that it's a fairly good source of income. It takes some skill. It takes some talent. I work through T&B language services because I don't know if it's quite a franchise or how it works. They take care of all the background stuff that an accounting firm might do for some other businesses. So just like an accounting firm is to some businesses where we take that off the plate, the back end bookkeeping and things like that, payroll and all that off the end for most businesses, T&B language services, they do the same for me when it comes to interpreting. I don't have the time to go out and look for the gigs, look for the jobs, and in different states it's going to be different things. So with the interpreting, just to give you a key up on that, different states have different rules regarding how they do interpreters, different regulations and rules. But here in Virginia, you can submit certain forms. You can actually go do it yourself. You can go to the courtrooms, see if they'll let you be an interpreter for them. Usually you're going to have to show some type of credentials, get on their list, and then stay active in trying to keep up on what their needs are. T&B does that for me. And so then they just email out all the interpreters when there's a gig available or a case or a assignment available. If that fits your schedule, then you can go. And that's what makes it great, is because it's not all reliant on me. I can do it when it fits my schedule. Obviously, during tax season, I don't get that involved in it. But it is a great advocation. So I have my vocation, which is the accounting right now. I have my advocation. Am I doing that right? My advocation, which is the interpreting right now, it's fun to spend a little time on the languages to get better at that as well. And then, of course, I have tons of little hobbies like YouTube. YouTube could be considered that fourth kind of creative rung. And I think that creative rung is another third area where you can possibly get some value out of it, but mostly it's about expressing yourself. So I have two areas, one where I spend the major of my time making my income, another side hustle, side gig where I get a little bit outside of my regular routine and comfort zone. And thirdly is my creative endeavor. And if you can establish yourself in these three areas, have your main gig, your main job. So that's a way that you can diversify your income. So we're taking those macro examples and bringing them down to the micro level, bringing them down to you by having those three areas that you can kind of look at to diversify your income. Of course, maybe that fourth might be your investments. Maybe that's the area, but you really kind of need those other two, at least two, and then possibly a third to do that. And what's fascinating about this method is that each area can give you ideas to bring to the other. So things that happen in one area might help solve a problem in the other. And if you're doing anything creative, like with the YouTube, if you're a YouTuber, once successful YouTubers, sometimes they lose their edge, and it's because they've lost the rest of their life. YouTube becomes everything to them, and they have nothing left to draw upon for inspiration. And you can kind of see that in their channels, and what they discuss is that it just becomes a rehash of old things, a review of others, and copying one another, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but having a life outside of one or the other allows for some perspective, which I think is a lot more intriguing in your creative endeavors. And even in those others, can give you an edge by having more than one area that gives you perspective, that can give you ideas. Now, to share with you a little bit, we did get paid. We got paid from the interpreting, and TMB has been paying me twice a month, middle and end of the month. So you have to have everything turned in time. And the last two payments that came in totaled $417.50. That was just because of the work I've done there. With them, I do get paid a little bit for traveling, but it's half time. Overall, the advocation doesn't pay me nearly as well as my regular vocation. So I keep it in a better perspective that way. However, let's not just get caught up on the actual value, but let's see what we do with these numbers. What I do with the advocation, number one is I divide it up into first three areas. The first three areas are: one, I reserve some money in that separate bank account for that business and other business ideas. It stays there to help me expenses that I may have with doing that advocation, or future expenses that may come up, things that I maybe want to experiment with, like the hat tack. That account helps pay for my ideas there as well. Maybe some YouTube stuff. So anything that I might be able to generate revenue from, I kind of keep that in there, that 1/3. The other third goes into my bank account to either help with expenses or pay for wants and needs, things like that. And then the other third goes into savings. Let's say I make a killing and I'm taxed on 1/3 of that revenue. Hasn't happened quite that way yet, but I'm already set up putting aside 1/3 of that revenue. Right now, that's going into separate pots. I laugh if you don't worry. And those are 5 different areas that then I divide that last 5 up in for savings. I'm just going to take advantage of that heat and warm up some water here. And I'm going to get into the 5 areas after I eat this, but for you guys, it'll be right away. Before I get to how I divide up that money from my avocation, I just wanted to give a brief few more things as to why it's important to do this. So when there's a downturn, just like in stocks, you want to be able to switch away from that. You never really know where life is going to take you. And having choices, or having that ability to go into one area or another, can help you withstand the downturns of one area or another, especially with how technology is changing constantly. Where we are in life, back to take care of family members. Yeah, I took the bar, and while I was studying for the bar, I did a little interpreting to kind of give me a little income as I was studying and to give me a break. But after one of the exams, while I was waiting for my results, I started to process taxes, as I thought it was similar enough to keep my mind active on rules and laws. These two things, while I did not set out to have a career in either one of these things, because I allowed myself to be open to other opportunities that fit my current life. It has given me some stable options, regardless of the situation life has put me in. But let's get on to these 5 areas. The 5 areas are long-term, mid-term, emergency, tax/education repayments, and savings. And this was from the advocation, not the vocation, not the profession. So long-term, right? I have 5 areas. Long-term, that's for retirement, all that stuff, the long-term things. Mid-term is more for big purchases. For instance, that was where I had to take some money out for my car when the car broke down. Maybe for some of you, that's your emergency fund. But for me, that's midterm. And then emergency comes up for different emergencies, doctor's appointments if I need to buy new tires for the car, which I think is something that'll be coming up soon. And then taxes/student loan repayments. So right now in the tax code, it allows you to take off part of your interest repayment. And in the beginning, you're often only doing interest-only payments until you get down to that principal. It's a great way to subsidize what you're having to pay in taxes. You're going to have to pay taxes anyways, especially in these advocation areas where you might be stuck paying a little bit of self-employment tax. That can come into play depending on where you're at in that advocation income. Also, self-employment tax may come into play. You might want to be able to, instead of paying that directly in taxes, you could pay down your student loan interest, and that will count against the taxes you owe on your tax return. So you can either pay in taxes, pay down your student loan interest, or you could do both, or you could just pay down your student loan interest and it'll count towards paying down the taxes you owe for that year. So a little hack right there for you, right? And then, of course, savings. Since this was business area, I do have another separate business savings. That's, once again, if there is anything that needs to get done, there's a little extra hiding out. So those are the 5 areas, and that should help you guys with overcoming and giving yourself a good way of combating the ups and downs of economic downturns in our lives, whether it's the 2008 crash or something else in your life and in your community. Once again, go ahead and tickle that like button if you haven't done so. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Leave comments like you always. I love engaging with you guys, and I wish you all the success. Just like in investing, when you want to diversify your stock market portfolio to help buffet the risk of any one stock going down, you do the same at a city or a county level. And you want to do the same on a personal level.